Hello, everyone. I will introduce myself. So I'm Lenka Hámošová. I originally come from Bratislava, so I'm really happy to be back in my hometown. I'm currently based in Prague, if you were looking for me, and I'm originally a designer, graphic designer, actually by trade, and in 2018, I started tinkering with AI. It was long before the hype, and I'm saying that because of that, I have certain insight into the topic, and I will show you also in this lecture some of the early experiments, and I hope it will be really interesting for you to have a bigger picture about like what was before AI started to be widely accessible and so popular that nowadays we just cannot not see it. We just have to talk about it, and it's a big topic, but it started really as a very experimental, almost like for me it was like in a hacker's culture. So I was always in I was basically trying to make an intervention in the tools that somebody else created for completely different purpose, and I got interested in how I can use it in creative practice. And I have to say at the very beginning that as a child, I had this dream that one day I could just visualize everything I had in my head, and there was no such tool back then. So that's why I had to learn how to draw, and then I had to learn how like what visual communication is and how I can work with typography and make collages and create visual arts and visual communication. Nowadays so that's why it was such a huge game changer for me, and what was at the very beginning of my interest in AI. I'm framing my talk about creative AI workflows, and I'm focusing on how to maintain the creative agency inside of working with AI, how not to like dilute the authorship, and I also it's a creative AI workflows is also a name of my practice. Um, I call it an agency, but I focus on education. So I educate in creative industry professionals, teams, how to use AI. But I try to do it. I really try to focus on how to do it, how to use it meaningfully. So not just because it's a new thing and now everybody has to use it. I give a lot of workshops, and I do my own research continuously, and that also leads to my own methodology that I teach. I will show you more in the upcoming few minutes. Except that line of work, I also organize a lot of events. So I'm a co-founder of Uroboros Festival. It's a small niche festival from Prague, and we focused early in 2020s on critical design and socially engaged designs and art. And first 2 years were strictly online because of pandemic, but those years were very formative because we managed to gather a lot of artists who were working with AI, and that was like my part of the program that I curated. I also organized creative AI meetups in Prague for 3 years. Now I kind of honestly burned out from it. But it was my way of how to kind of create, like foster this critical discussion and create a space for open experimentation. Ideally, like a place where artists and programmers could meet together and create some new stuff and intervene these tools with curiosity and critical mindset. And I have also a research practice. I was associated with FAMU in Prague for 4 years when I was making my PhD. So during this period, I had an amazing opportunity to really like dig into the topic, and I published a few articles. If you're curious, you can find it later on my website. For example, this article called it's about the project called Troubling Gun, is a speculative artistic research into into the value of documentary photography and the problem of recontextualizing of documentary photography, and whether it would not be actually better to use visually ambiguous AI-generated material instead of this like unethically recycled photojournalism. So I was active in artistic research circles, and also teaching at FAMU, and also giving workshops at other arts academies in Czech Republic, but also abroad. And on the top of everything, I also have my own artistic practice, which originates in this experimentation with AI models. So here you see a picture of my older project, Strange Attractions, which was from the roughly like 2019-20. Now it's traveling around Europe as an exhibition in Czech centers. So I'm really happy that it's still being seen, although it's an old work. And I will continue now with the topic of our lecture, but you will see more of my work also during the talk, because I just cannot split it, because I'm also like arriving at certain opinions and observations throughout this artistic practice. So we are here now to talk about AI also like more specifically in the context of animation. And I see AI as another step in the historic evolution of the tools that animation started with very simple physical tools. Then so the invention of zoetrope. Then there was a second stage of lightbox and a paper. Then we moved to the computer animation and working with 3D, and now we have AI animation. So I would like to see it as a natural evolution, but of course it is on many levels problematic, and the barrier to access these tools is getting lower. So of course it's also about maintaining the craft, and it doesn't mean now that everyone who can write a text prompt is able to make a proper animation. We can also look at it from a different perspective, that we had and we still have manual approach how to make animation. Then there was procedural approach, where we don't design every step. We let algorithms compute the next the next stages of the movement. And generative AI is now also bridging to the next level of us becoming more of a directors of the whole process, or architects of the process. And so it gives us the advantage to make more in shorter time, or be able to do more complex projects in just one person. And it doesn't have to necessarily mean that we are or we should be losing our own creative agency inside of the process. And what's also changing from my point of view is, I'm trying to look at AI as co-creation, although it's also very controversial approach, whether we should or should not assign any kind of agency to AI, and whether we can take AI as a partner in the creative process. But in my own artistic practice, it showed to be very generative, not in the way that I'm generating images, but generative of new ideas and insights, and also very introspective. And I will show you more later of how it showed up in my own artistic practice. But you know that the fact that AI has now entered the domain of art is actually making us to stop and confront ourselves of why we actually do make art, and what is art good for, and what is it here to do, what do we want to say. And I think now is a really nice opportunity to negotiate with ourselves, also like on a personal level, but also on a societal level, how we want these things to evolve. And we will see later how, like, what those sub questions are. So I will make a short history tour, just to show you how also the speed is progressing and what was possible in 2018 and how we gradually got here. So this is one slide that stops at 2023, because that was the year which I consider that AI started to be like really massively known and accessible to general public. And before that, it was more like a niche interest of some researchers and programmers. But these years are significant because in 2018, it was a year when deepfakes, so the AI-generated videos of humans making things or doing things that they never did, they got widely popular in 2018. So that's the year when you could see the face of Nicolas Cage on almost every other actor. So I think his face was the most deepfaked at that time. Then in the year 2019, it was a release of a model called Gauguin by the company NVIDIA, and for me, that was the most interesting moment, because it was not about generating human faces, or it was not about just pressing a button, but you had much bigger creative control with this model, because you could just draw that kind of like a very simple sketch, like on the left side, which really reminded me the Windows MS Paint application, which I loved as a child. And by selecting specific colors, you were actually choosing different textures, and you could then press generate, and it would give you this like. So that was considered actually a photorealistic outcome in 2019, which from today, from 2026, we see it's like far from photorealistic, but it was a breakthrough back then. In 2020, we saw the first like really photorealistic outcomes from the model StyleGAN, again from by NVIDIA company, and this one was trained on 10,000 photographs of human faces from the Flickr website. And so maybe you saw this website. This person does not exist. That was very shocking for everyone to see photo portraits of people that were never alive, that have never lived on this planet. Of course, there were still some details that were not really that were telling you it's generated, but it was a very big breakthrough. And then we moved in 2021. That was a significant year when we switched from these models that were strictly in one modality. So, for example, StyleGAN was trained on images and could generate only images. In 2021, we managed to connect text with images, and that was another game changer, because all of a sudden you have much bigger control of what should the next image be that you generate. Before, it was kind of random, or you could just give it some direction. Okay, I want to go a little bit to the right, to the left. But if you wanted a tool that my that I wanted when I was a kid to visualize my crazy ideas, then this was it. And then we moved through the stage when the first image-to-text model by OpenAI, DALL-E 1, was still not publicly accessible. Maybe you remember those articles. They were basically afraid that what would happen if people could just use text-to-image models, and they didn't want to release it publicly because it was too dangerous. Okay, and we are here now, and we somehow live with it. So, so it's like when we look back, like there were always these moments where we kind of stopped for a bit, and then somebody decided not to wait, and we pushed through, and we are here, where we are now. And so I call those early years as messy hacking period because there were no like proper interfaces that you would make it user friendly. The best interface for you to use AI was Google Colab. I don't know if anyone is familiar with this. It's an online. It's a product from Google. It's like a notepad where you can interact with a piece of code, and you basically just click play to certain parts of the code. So you actually don't have to code at all. You could just run the model in this environment, and at some points you could change some values. So you could at least this way sort of interact with the model. And I was playing with it a lot back then, and it was nice because I could really also I could literally break the model. So I could make all kinds of glitches, and I could see what's inside, and there was no barrier between me and this model. Here we are looking at my experiments from 2019. It was just a stupid experiment of using style transfer. I was just curious what is possible to do. It's, of course, the quality is horrible, but again, 2019. And here you see what I actually did. I just took an original footage, short animation. I used one AI model to create semantic map out of this model, so it highlights areas with different colors based on the texture. So the AI model was guessing what's in the image, and then I generated synthetic version of this. So of course it didn't make sense, but I was curious how it's gonna look, what will be the difference, and then I was curious how it's gonna look like if I apply style transfer on this animation. So I used this album cover from one black metal band, and that was the animation that you saw. This is what people were doing with AI back then, like kind of pushing it and seeing what is possible, kind of guessing the potential, but the quality was horrible. And yeah, here you see the project that I showed you before, Strange Attractions. So this is the model style again. So that one trained on photographs of human faces, and when I played with it, I could arrive at these different, very weird faces. Some of them are not even faces anymore, but the AI model still considered them a human face. And I was genuinely surprised, like what kind of colors and compositions I could find in this model. And they were never to be seen, because the model was designed to generate photorealistic outcomes. So I had to break it to get to see these encounters. And I was like genuinely happy about it. So I started collecting them. And I'm showing you here actually how I was animating them. So this was still 2021, I think, or 2020. I could just move in front of the web camera, and that movement was driving the animation of the static image from StyleGAN. And it was a lot of fun back then. So we're moving to the text-to-image. Here are some years. All of a sudden, more and more text-to-image models were popping up. And I just want to show you, this was the state of the art back then. And again, we were everyone was completely amazed how photorealistic it is. Actually, not at all, but it was so like, wow, I almost can see what I put in the prompt, like it required a little bit of imagination, like when you're looking at clouds and you see elephants and other stuff. And you could make this kind of animation just by generating an image after image and changing the axis. So you could say move on the Z axis further. So basically you were zooming in or zooming out, and that way you could create an animated movement from this one image. And that was very popular back then. But then the models got better, and DALL-E 2 started to be quite photorealistic. So I remember when this image got popular online, I have to admit, for the first few seconds, I really thought the Pope is very stylish and wearing this jacket, this puffer jacket. Then I realized, like, okay, this is just the internet being internet. But yeah, that was a moment when I realized, like, yeah, this is going to be crazy. Like all these questions about how to know what's real and what's not, they are still relevant today, and even more than before. Then another breakthrough was all of a sudden that AI got implemented into graphic softwares, for example, Photoshop, and actually the whole Adobe Creative Cloud is now gradually implementing their own AI, and it's disrupting the traditional workflows. Now almost everyone I know and talk to from like graphic design field is using at least the generative field to extend image, delete parts of an image, and nobody's really thinking about how much, like when we were in the discussion before talking about environmental costs of using generative AI. Here it's so natural to use it. It's there. It's so simple that you just use it and you're not even aware that you're using it. So interfaces are very sometimes the thing that's like clouding our vision. Here I have an example of VO3, which is the video model from Google, published last year. I want to play just a bit from it, so you see.
Welcome to a non-existent car show. Let's see some opinions.
I mean, man, the acceleration is crazy. You look far, step on the pedal, and you are there.
I feel safe with him in an SUV, and it seems to be like the right type of car for him.
I think the range is only going to get better. Sorry.
We don't want to drive gas cars anymore.
Yeah, no more gas cars.
You can see I'm kind of a misfit here, but don't tell anyone. I've just bought an electric car.
I think it's really great for families and for little babies with all the safety features that these SUVs have.
But what you're really seeing is that.
So I don't know if you are looking at it now, like how many of you would say it's generated? So you already see it, right? But when the year ago, it was like, at least when you watch it on a small device, on your smartphone, you don't see the glitches, and it just kind of can look real. And so this was a big game changer because it was possible to generate a video from a text prompt with synchronized sound. And since then, like now, Sora 2 has also this feature, and it's like becoming a standard. Sorry. But I would like to show show you the other app called Runway ML, and this is an app that I was actually using already in 2019, and they were back then specializing. Well, they were kind of collecting all kinds of other open source models from research, from academic research, and they made it accessible in this kind of nice user interface. So you could just use some sliders and buttons, and all of a sudden you were generating stuff much nicer than the Google Colab. And now they are recently, like the last 3 years, they started focus solely on video. Of course, you can now in this app generate also images and work with sound. So there are like still there are other options, but the main focus is when you make videos, this should be like your platform. And I'm not paid by them. Okay, this is not a promotion. It's just I'm showing it as a like a case study of how also these products shift. And I wanted to show you their latest research. I will play this short video.
GWM Worlds is a world model for real-time environment simulation. With GWM Worlds, you don't simply generate videos of environment, you simulate them. So you can start with a static image and simple prompt, then begin to explore that complex, dynamic world, all in real time. You can walk, drive, fly, or even skydive through any world, real or imagined. GWM Worlds has accurate lighting, physics.
So their research now focuses on these world building models, and the goal is not only just generate videos from text, but so you will be able to generate the whole 3D world in which you can move and interact, and like that way you can like it's gonna be like a next way how to create animated films by interacting inside of this 3D world without having to make a 3D build environment in a 3D software. And it has, of course, many ways how this can be used, and it's most probably going to be used in the game industry, but maybe it's also interesting for you in some way to explore it later. But now it's just still in the research phase. We move for no. Okay, so we move further. In 2023, since 2023, I call it workflows era, because what I was kind of preaching before, like that we should learn how to connect different tools and have our own workflows. All of a sudden, it became actually popular, not because of me, of course. Also, other people realized it's really beneficial to not just use one tool, but connect them and create pipelines. And it's inspired by visual coding. So that's not new. These kind of interfaces where you connect different components that have different codes in it, and you are creating these connections with the nodes, and then you just run it and you get some result. And the point is, when you change just some variable, you can repeat the same process over and over and over. And this is becoming very useful in working with generative AI. This slide is showing the user interface of ComfyUI. It's this node-based editor where you can build your own automatized creative AI workflows. Like you can connect most of the open source models there, like Stable Diffusion, Animate Diff, and many others. It's a bit technically challenging, and it's not like very easy and straightforward, but it's also, there are many tutorials online, and it's open source, so you can actually download it and run it locally on your own computer, so you can be more independent from the AI companies, or you can run it in the cloud as well, so you can borrow this graphic card in the cloud for a few cents for an hour. So you are paying only for the time you are actually running the workflow. So I recommend checking it out. And here, this was in my slide from the Creative AI meetups I organized. This is how it looks like in the practice. This is how we ran Stream Diffusion setup through ComfyUI in Touch Designer. And basically what it was doing is that we could generate images with synchronized sound from multiple inputs in real time. So we could change the text prompt, but we could also stand and dance in front of the web camera, and that was the input as an input image. Together with the text prompt, it was generating next and next image. So the animation that you see was us sitting at the table in the real time, and it was like generating image after image while we were actually changing the inputs. And this is the guys from that started coming to my meetups, and I'm gonna show you what they achieved with this stream diffusion setup. They presented it on a TED talk in Prague. So I'm gonna show a short piece. So they had a dancer who was performing, and her movement was driving the animation, and the guys were they're still standing in the back. 3 guys with 3 computers. They were creating the music and the text prompts, and they masked the area in which the images should be generated to the shape of her body as she was moving. So just to show you that these kinds of things are possible and are not that difficult to set up, and that this kind of like curious artistic intervention can actually bring quite interesting uses of these models that they were actually not designed to be used this way. And now I'm gonna scare you a little bit, because in 2026 we can be creating AI workflows just from a text prompt. So actually what looked difficult is now very easy to do. Why is it not playing automatically? This is a tool called CEEA AI. Here you can just write what you want the workflow to do, and it will generate the workflow for you. And we're moving even further. So this year is a year of AI agents. So all kinds of AI automatic processes. We are connecting different AI agents. People are vibe coding their own apps and software, and we have vibe marketing, and it's just becoming completely crazy and rapid. And I'm not gonna play this with sound, but for example, this guy in this video just in 1 hour generated the whole marketing strategy, from the brand positioning to all like landing page with all marketing materials, even animations, and basically everything that before he would have to hire an agency or pay a designer and copywriter and whatnot. So now everybody who is a little bit like not afraid to play with Claude, this was specifically Claude code, so you can do that. And there are companies that are trying to say that they have AI agents. For example, Love Art first positioned themselves as a design AI agent. Well, basically it's not true, but they offer this kind of full package, so that you just write a prompt and they will like make everything for you. Then things like that you can connect Canva, for example, with your ChatGPT, and you can generate editable templates just from your ChatGPT. So you generate your idea how the poster should look like, and then it opens in your Canva, and you can immediately edit the text and tune it, like make it look better. And I'm gonna play this one.
You don't have to know video editing for videos like these anymore. This is Remotion, You create videos using code, not timelines. People and agencies already use this for product demos, motion graphics, and automated content. Here's how you make it. Create a Remotion project. Install Remotion skills for Claude. Describe the video you want, and Claude writes the code. Code in. Video out. Follow for more workflows like this.
So, yeah, people who don't know how to make videos, they will do it this way. And I'm showing it just so you realize like how it's like speeding up. Like I'm used to the speed because I've been looking at it since long time. But honestly, this year my head is spinning from it, and I stop being able to keep up. It's really rapid, and I think we cannot anymore like ignore it. And this is the moment where we have to kind of answer some questions for ourselves, and especially as creators. So how do we like position ourselves in this world? What is going to be our reaction, and how do we, like, if we have to use it, how we can use it so we're not losing our authorship, but also that we're not using our cognitive sovereignty, or like that it's not making us actually do like repeat the same pattern over and over and just like throw prompts into the machine and hope for a good result. So how do we can like keep our process working together with AI? And of course, there are different ways how people react. There are some people who choose not to use AI, and we kind of touched this also at the discussion before this talk, that there are companies, for example, that try to benefit now from craft, from human-made stuff. So maybe you saw the new Apple intro that's completely made by humans physically. So it was made like specifically to react on AI development and take a stand against it. And for example, this is another campaign from Polaroid. AI cannot generate sand between your toes. So they want to say that AI images, yeah, everybody can do it. There will be plenty of them, but there is a certain quality of the photo that's being developed on spot, and it's tactile, and you have it as a souvenir, and it's more connected to the actual memory that you're documenting. Then there are other people who are like on the other side of the spectrum that fall into the blind adoption. And here we can be talking about AI slope, basically. When you open any kind of AI tool, there usually is Explore feed. So it's a feed where you see what people are generating right now. Most of the generations are just there to be seen if you don't pay for the most expensive tier, which usually creative agencies pay. So you don't see what they are working on. But what if you are using it, even if you're paying for the monthly subscription, your outcomes are gonna end up in this feed. And it's good and bad at the same time, because on one hand you can it's a nice snapshot of the popular culture at the moment, and seeing what other people are generating is going to give you quite some idea of the society. But you can also learn from it. You can usually open the video, and then you see what kind of prompt the person used, and you can remix it. So you can click on it and you can try to generate your own version from the original video. So yeah, the questions about authorship and like whether you then quote the person that you build your work on, that's not required. So yeah, some kind of attribution. So that's why we are still in this kind of like a Wild West zone. On the other hand, you can look at it as a free space to experiment and learn. But the downside is that many people now really try to simplify the whole, like what's behind the creation. And to be able to make a really good film, you have to go through years of studying and like developing your own style and practice and you know, all kinds of life experiences. That's all that adds up to becoming a master in it. While when there's a generative AI, now everybody can use it. So it's creating this illusion that I can skip that whole part, but it's gonna be seen. It's gonna be seen that those videos are simply empty. And I just had to find some example of what I mean by AI slope. Probably you see it on your social media. Sometimes you don't. It's like hard to even understand why people have the need to generate all these kinds of stuff, and it's like flooding the internet. But that's what people just do if they don't have any other deeper meaning behind it. That it's just using the technology because they can, and yeah, no depth behind it. We see a lot of AI film festivals popping up the last few years. Also, the company Runway that I showed you hosts their own AI film festival. So it's like a new genre. And I don't know, like from my point of view, it's really, of course, some people really are able to achieve nice results with this, but mostly you see, again, this very simplified approach to creation of short movies. And also you see the limitations of the technology. For example, now it's a little bit better, but last year you could see that all movies looked like trailers because they were combined from just 4 to 16 seconds videos, and then there was a problem to keep the consistency. So usually you had to switch to a little bit different scene, and it was seen in the movies. So the question is, according to me, like it's my personal opinion, it's not about whether to use AI or not that much, but the question is about how to use it without losing the authorship, and how not to end up like an egg. Okay, I'm gonna explain this, but in last century, around 1940s, 50s, there were these cake mixes that housewives were supposed to use to bake a cake, but actually they were not selling that well because the feedback was that the women felt like they were not adding anything into the process, that they didn't make the cake. So then it was actually a marketing strategy to remove the dried egg from the cake mix and say on the package that you have to add your own egg. So originally you didn't have to. It was possible to have it with the dried eggs, but they did it to make people feel like I'm adding something into it, and all of a sudden there was this sense of agency in the process, and you could feel proud that you made the cake, that you were not cheating. So I have to think about this example because like it's for me a metaphor. I just hope that we are not gonna treating our creativity like these eggs. So we have to make sure that when we're interacting with AI, that even though we think we are using our own creativity, that it's not there just because they wanted us to feel creative, you know? Like, so that's what I want to talk about now, how to keep this level of authorship. So I already mentioned the one thing that's important is the craft. So never reduce your own craft. And it's gonna be now, I think, more visible. Maybe we will see the same kind of reaction like after Industrial Revolution, when all of a sudden there was this industrialization and big machines creating products for daily use, and we saw a reaction and counter movement in the form of arts and crafts movement, represented by Philip Morris and other artists, when they had this need to come back to the craft and bring this handmade, proper stuff and materials back into our lives. So maybe in the same way, we now, like, our lives will be so saturated with the synthetic material that there will be, and I'm sure of it, there will be this need for like a result that, like, stuff that's a result of human work, and that we can feel that human hands were creating this thing. Just one example, the fashion brand Hermes had on their website, they used, in reaction to AI trend, human-made illustrations instead of the photos of the products, and it was a reaction to the trend today that most brands are already using AI-generated product photography on the website. So you are buying products that are not even documented photographically; it's just a pure simulacra there. So when it's so detached from reality, it could have been already like illustrated in this way. The second thing that's, I think, very important is to think about our own unique and embodied human experience, because I think that's the most important ingredient in the creative process. And that was my kind of observation a few years back when I started asking these questions, and to say it bluntly, I just started touching myself, like in that video. I mean, I realized, like, okay, I'm working so much digitally, and now it's AI, and I'm lacking, like, why am I as a human doing this? And I had this urge to bring something physical back into my work. So I started this kind of exploration, doing all kinds of embodied experiments, and then regenerating them through AI, and seeing this tension, like what happens when it's synthetic. And there are other artists already talking about this, like whether AI can generate art. And here I have an example from the website Red Hand Files. That's by the song writer and singer and musician Nick Cave. And the fans can ask a question there. So one fan asked, what does Nick think about this AI-generated song? And he replied quite a long answer. And I highlighted the part that was the most interesting for me. Basically, Nick says that it can use all kinds of words it wants, but you know and you feel that it's not connected to this real experience, that there's no suffering behind it or no emotion. And why do we even listen or look at art? We are kind of looking some connection with someone who have been through this experience, that either through the very same experience we are now going through, or through an experience we don't have to necessarily go through, but that person went through it and can, like, communicate this state through the art for us. So AI cannot do anything here because it doesn't have a body, it doesn't have a way how to understand emotions. It can understand them like conceptually, but as long as it cannot feel it in its body, and as long as it cannot feel pain, I think there's no way how it can, like, understand human condition and art, and that's why it's our advantage. So then I started touching clay in my practice. I don't know why. I just had this need to touch it and think about what my body does when I don't direct my hands. So I was exploring this kind of tactile conversation, and I made a short essay about imagining how I'm trying to communicate my embodied states to the AI and how it's like impossible because it doesn't have a body. Yeah, I'm not gonna now. No, this is just a short teaser. It's actually in the form of a meditation. But at the same time, I organized a research workshop where I invited multiple researchers and artists. We were like interdisciplinary group, and we were touching clay. We were trying to communicate something through the clay without we were blinded. And it was then the goal was, or like the challenge was, to try to communicate this experience or like the remnant, the outcome of this experience, which is the blob of clay deformed in some way, communicated to AI, and whether we can communicate what we experience through the touch. And then I did this workshop countless times in different settings with different people, and it was really interesting because this attempt was not so simple, and it opened all these topics, and everyone had to kind of find their own way how to try to communicate what this object meant for them, basically, and whether you take a photo of it, so you just like look at it, or whether you want to talk about the quality, how it feels when you touch it, or maybe you want to talk about the quality that you experienced while you were touching it, without your sight. I'm gonna jump a little bit. So basically, I want to arrive at the question that everybody should ask, everybody who's an author: what makes you unique? Besides, of course, that you are a human and you have a body, but everyone has a different package that we are carrying with us. We've been through some experiences, but we have also our own obsessions. We have our gifts. We have also some maybe bad stuff that happened, but everything all together creates you as a unique living person, and that's what you bring in your art. So we will try to do this later. And so we had the craft, we had this embodied quality of us as humans, and the third thing is workflows thinking, and that's what I'm like specializing in. But it's also, like you saw on this historic evolution, it's becoming now the practice, the established norm. And it should not mean that you design a workflow and you are at the beginning just as this designer of the workflow, and then you press play and it's automatically running. You can decide which parts of your workflow should be done by AI and which parts you decide to keep yourself because you are really, really good at it. So there are different parts of the creative process that AI can do for you, and you can decide which ones are the best in your case. And I think it's like very natural for artists to think in this way, because I think rarely there is just some spontaneous creativity all of a sudden there's an outcome. Like usually there is some process behind it that the artist is repeating daily or regularly, or there was a whole process of translating from one material and form into a different one and then arriving at the final result. And So that's what I was also teaching at FAMU. I had this class that was about creative AI in artistic practice, and I asked every student to think about their own artistic practice, and they were supposed to design their own workflow with or without AI. It was actually not so much about AI, but it was about trying to reverse engineer what they did in the last project or what they are doing now, and trying to like draw some kind of map or mind map of the process, and then visualize it in some way. So here you are looking at what one example. This was an example from VŠVU here in Bratislava from the final assessments. This is more technical approach, and now I'm gonna show you a short video so you can see how this approach, how workflows are being used in the Runway ML. So you can be more of a practical understanding of it.
Workflow, simply copy it to your Runway account and then give it a name. Now you can freely move around the canvas, zoom in and out, click on a node to move it, or hit delete to get rid of it entirely. We'll get into building custom workflows in another episode, so for now, let's run what we have here. First, we need to add a prompt, then run the whole workflow to get our results. In order to customize a featured workflow or build one from scratch, it's important to understand the workflow logic and the tools that you have to work with. So let's quickly break down the logic of this workflow. We have a text prompt input that is flowing into an LLM node and getting enhanced by the system prompt, which is then being fed into an image node to achieve the desired results. In this workflow, the LLM is doing a lot of the heavy lifting, converting our very simplistic user prompt into something far more robust to achieve the desired creative outcome. To customize this workflow even further, we can start adding more steps. To keep it simple, let's right-click on the canvas and add a Gen 4 video node. Looking at this node a little bit closer, we need a prompt and an image in order to make it run. Let's connect our image output to the Gen 4 image input, and the same prompt that was used to create the image can go into the prompt connector. Now, if we run that specific node, we have added an image to video step utilizing Gen 4. If we run the
So, for example, here it's like how you can generate storyboards that you set up this kind of workflow, and you can then reuse it over and over. But you don't have to like do this in one tool, although it's very convenient. You can actually think about workflows also outside of these tools and just combining them on your own manually. So you prepare your inputs, you put them, I don't know, in ChatGPT, and then you take them out and use them in Adobe Firefly, and then take it back to Runway or somewhere else. And now I see that there's also like time is running, but I would like to show you quickly 3 different examples of videos, and I quickly reverse engineered the process so you can see what kind of workflow was behind it. So I'm not going to play the whole video, but just that you see the principle of the animation. So it's like endless zoom, and then you're changing the scenes, and it's something that you would not be able to achieve with camera because the changes in the scenes were too surreal. And here, what the person was doing, it's the artist Paul Trillo. You have image input, you have text prompt, and that way he generated a first short video. Actually, it was really nice way how to use the short videos problem of AI, because it was not such a problem there in this way. And then using the last frame from the video as an input image with another text prompt to generate another video, and then repeating basically the same process over and over and over. it is a workflow that made the whole video.
Traps right beneath the surface, sirens calling, you trying to resist in the shadow.
And here we have actually a real dancer dancing in front of the camera in the suit with the sensors. And this video, we have a recorded video, but then we are using text prompt with from which we are generating images, like series of images, and applying it on the movement from the recorded video. And to just show it even like in smaller detail, it's like those videos are countless sequences of images. So that's why it was like every image had a slightly different prompt, and it's changing throughout the song. And this last part I have to show in a different window. It's from Tomáš Rampula, a Czech artist.
Through every image, ongoing code, if it doesn't say well. It's much more fun flesh than I. And from when human being to a 1.5 so later and take it.
So I'm showing this example because it's very, I think, high quality animation projects, and he's winning all kinds of awards for it. And he mastered the process so much that he's able to have really, really the highest artistic control over it. Here you see, I tried to reverse engineer the process and like draw it in some simple way. I'm sorry for my drawing, but it's very complex because he's first actually spending a lot of time crafting the main master text prompt. Then he's pre-generating the style images. Then he's manually still in-painting and unpainting them, so like retouching them in Photoshop. And then he will create a master frame for one scene, and he's animating from this like one master frame and creating then the sequence of like last frame and of that video, and again generating a new video from that last frame to prolong that sequence. And it's a very layered process, and it takes, I don't know, like a few months. So it was really not made in one evening from one text prompt, like most of those videos that are now in those AI film festivals. And I just want to show that it can be very complicated process. So AI doesn't necessarily mean it's simplification and a reduction of artistic control. And by the way, that language that you heard was intentionally not understandable. So he even like generated a synthetic language. So it sounds like kind of like English, but you cannot understand it. And I would still play this video because it talks specifically about animation, and it's an explanation of of a typical of one workflow of how Paul Trillo and his team made this animated video for the song.
Hi, I'm Paul Trillo, and this is the animation breakdown for the visual world of the music artist Kuko. Like any animated project, it started with storyboards. We then moved on to 60 original illustrations drawn by the LA artist Paul Flores. We trained an AI LoRa model on those original illustrations, which gave us the ability to go from 60 assets to unlimited assets. We used a 3D generation tool to extrude the 2D assets into 3D assets and built out an entire 3D city in the style of Paul Flores. We called it Kuko Town. It allowed us to create more dynamic camera moves and return to the same environment in multiple scenes. The next step was the biggest breakthrough of the whole project. We called it Generative Ink and Paint. We took very basic pencil sketch keyframe artwork and imbued them with Paul Flores' style, creating something that felt richer with more detail and color. Our team of 2D animators were excited about this step since it allowed them to control the style and motion of the animation without having to ink and color every single frame. Building these scenes involved multiple steps, going from 2D into 3D and then back into 2D again. We used the Paul Flores AI model to style transfer these scenes from a more video game looking aesthetic into a more hand-drawn aesthetic. It also unified all the different 2D animators to have the same look and feel. We style transferred everything from characters to backgrounds to entire scenes, ensuring that Paul Flores' style was consistent throughout. We used generative animation to bring the background characters to life and populate the streets of Kuko Town. We would take the first frame, the middle frame, and the last frame, and generate the motion that happens in between those frames. This was incredibly useful to create small transitions and stitching together different scenes. The project still involved a lot of traditional 2D animation elements. We could jump from the animatic stage into something that felt much more finalized, much quicker, using this workflow. The thing with using these AI tools is it's not necessarily a linear approach. Everything is very iterative and dynamic with lots of trial and error. Sometimes in those failures, those things that you don't expect lead to happy accidents. What made this so special is we had a diverse team of animators and artists working together with a shared vision. The project combined illustrators, 2D animators, 3D animators, and a variety of AI techniques. These tools allowed them to extend their artist's hand much further. Rather than removing them from the process, it actually allowed them to do a lot more, so a small team can dream a lot bigger.
So I think what was the most important about it is what he said, that it didn't necessarily like reduce anyone's work, but it allowed them to achieve something much bigger and work together as a team and create this one unified outcome. And now I would like to probably speed up a little bit, but I just wanted to show that well, you can be thinking about workflows in many different ways. You can use different ways how to visualize them. This is a system that I developed for myself and my workshops. So it's like the combination of octagons that represent content and arrows that represent the tasks that we perform, and not necessarily all tasks are AI performed. Some of them are human-made. I designed these kind of cards. I have them also with me if you want to then have a look at them, that represent different AI models and what modalities they work with, and how we can sequence them together to think about possible workflows. And then it's all up to you how you actually design your own creative practice with AI. And now, like, we can decide how to proceed from now on. I prepared 2 short exercises for you in but we can also, I can just tell them what they entail, and you can also do it later at home if you prefer to have a discussion now. What I wanted you to do, and you can still, and I encourage you to do it, is to spend some time with paper and pen, and what I explained before, like think about what your unique toolkit is. So these are categories that I suggest to use. So think about your life experiences, skills and craft that you are good at, your sensibilities, your obsessions and interests, and materials and inputs. By that I mean, like, some people collect things. Like if you collect some materials, or you take photos of some objects, that kind of stuff. And then the question is, what do you do with this creative toolkit once you do it for yourself? So that means that you position yourself as an artist, and you know what you don't want to be taken from you, so you can protect that part, and you can treat your experiences as legit materials, and you can use them as input in AI media synthesis and not feel like you didn't add anything. And you should always use AI to expand your thinking and not to replace your thinking. So, like, that means staying aware in the process, like taking frequent breaks, and maybe reflect also in the form of a journal on your process, because that way you can spot where you're drifting away from your initial intention, because that happens a lot. Like, even when you have a workflow prepared, sometimes the AI throws at you a different result, and it's so spectacular and so that it overwhelms you, and then you forget your initial intention. And then the exercise number 2 was about actually mapping your own creative workflow. So what you can do is to think about what I told you that I did with my students, is to try to reverse engineer your typical project. So what steps you usually do at the beginning, and go into as big detail as possible. So not just, okay, I have an idea, but how is your idea being born? Do you go to take a shower and there's your idea, or you talk with people? So split it in smaller and smaller and smaller boxes, and have it somewhere as a map, and then you can highlight which parts you decide for yourself to keep it for yourself, and which parts are kind of like, I'm open to exploring using AI in this area or this area. And maybe this area can be fully automatized by AI because it's just really repetitive and boring and not creative at all, and I just need to do it, and I hate that part of a process. So and maybe some parts are like not sure, but it can change. So it's also good to revisit this process once in a while, because your opinion on that can change. So I wanted to then close this with saying that for everyone it will be different. Like, some artists will decide to double down on craft, some artists will explore the technological frontier and will like get their hands dirty and experiment a lot. Some will become really good at designing these workflows, and maybe will also share these workflows with others, because actually this is not really native or intuitive to everyone. Not everybody has that kind of a mind to be able to think in that kind of like an abstract way. And some artists will maybe become hybrid storytellers, and they will explore more of this co-creative relationship with AI. So we just wanted to end with saying that animation has always been the art of giving life to the inanimate, and now the inanimate can animate itself, but it's still us humans who are creating the meaning or giving it a meaning, and without us and our experience lived through the body on this very planet, there's no meaning in it at all. So that that's how I see it. And yeah, this is my last slide where you have some context for me. And if you want, I can come back to some of those slides, or yeah, we can now have a time for questions.
Do you have any questions? Do we have any questions? Okay, maybe I'll ask the first one. Do you have any app or maybe suggestion? Maybe you do it not digitally, maybe you do it just hand-drawn of your process of mind mapping, the one you showed, and you go more into detail and more. I imagine that you start with the really basic ones and then you add in between those. So maybe some suggestions and maybe how you do it yourself. What is the best way for you to do this mind mapping?
That's a good question. And I use often Miroboard. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's like this infinite canvas environment. Because when I go and teach workshops, it's a nice place where like the whole group of people can land, and we can. So I use that a lot for this brainstorming and mind mapping. But more and more, I am becoming fan of the physical building of the workflows. So like you saw at that this image, this is actually it's cut out shapes from paper, and I like to do it physically on a table, because I notice that different parts of my brain just get active when I'm not looking in the screen. So and you can do it with Post-its and paper or a whiteboard, but also drawing is still, I think, the best as well. Like you can just you can feel free. You're not constricted by a method, because this was designed as a method, so sometimes it's too rigid, and then I realize like, okay, but now I want to do something that breaks the method, and then so and of course there are some algorithmic tools for this as well. And like I showed you, that you can even generate workflows. And also Miroboard has now like an option to generate these flowcharts from a text prompt. So you could potentially describe stuff and it will generate it. But I like, if you want to use it to think about your creative practice, I would not recommend generating it from a text prompt, but really thinking about your process and playing with it and zooming in and zooming in and zooming in, because I think it's a fractal.
Yeah. There was this example with the animated video where there was some sort of collaborative process, but in the other parts of the workflows, could you please expand on like how to make this a collaborative process? Because not every animator is a director, and lots of animator jobs are part of this workflow, like exactly storyboarding, for example. And oftentimes it's the storyboarder who brings different ideas to the story itself. So, for example, like, wouldn't it be a shame to reduce this collaborative process into a person making this workflow in dialogue with a computer?
But it doesn't mean that when you make a workflow that it just has to be you using it. And from my point of view, the moment I started visualizing the process this way, it's made for me much easier to communicate what I want to do and actually involve people in collaboration. So I actually use it as a way how to explain what I plan to do, like to programmers, because I don't code myself, and this way they see what's in my crazy head, what I want to do. And so I think it should be actually a tool for collaboration.
And it helps you also to see like the parts where you actually want help from a human, and which parts can be automated. And
exactly, like actually you can highlight which parts will be automated by AI, but also which parts you need help from other people. And also what I do, or what's good to do, is when you have this kind of workflow, you can take it to consult it with other people, and because sometimes you are not aware of some parts that you maybe don't know that you need help somewhere, or maybe some other people can draw some branches there, like, okay, you forgot about this, maybe it can also grow this way, maybe you can experiment with this. So I think it's like in general, I think it's now like a revolution of this kind of like workflow thinking, and it's not only in the creative industry, but people like in companies setting up AI automatizations, they had to kind of reverse engineer their daily tasks and think about like what we want to automate, or where we can collaborate better. So even they had to kind of think and splitting it in workflows and start talking about how they work and what they do with their colleagues, for example. And that's I've seen that, and it's very uncomfortable for some people, but then very inviting for other people. So they now know how to help, for example, their colleagues.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks. There's some more. I have a question about how do you find like different AI models that are maybe not so popular and more niche?
You mean how do I find that they exist, or what?
Yes.
Yeah, yep. I research it like because I already knew about some models from the years back. I kind of follow what those people are still working on, so that way I keep track about newer versions of their models or new research. So that's one way. Then following certain people on LinkedIn or X, like former Twitter, but you need like not all of them are posting about the nice and niche models. So it kind of like takes time to find people who are worth following, and so often it's a this kind of like word of mouth. And like because I'm making these sets of cards, I have to update them because they are essentially a collection of AI models, and half of them are not very known. Last, I think 2 years, I'm using AI to help me find like relevant models, but it's, of course, I have to like direct it a lot because it has a tendency to give me the most hyped models. So I need to make a specific prompt that I'm interested in a model that's open source, that's it can be that maybe it doesn't have to be an established tool, but a proof of concept demo is also okay, and stuff like that. And actually, it can help you also search for these models. And there are also communities like on Discord. So for example, ComfyUI that I showed has their own Discord, and there people share what they did, what kind of workflows they built, and there you see what models they are using. And so then you already know some new names, and you start looking for those, and then you read about other tools. So it's this kind of never-ending search.
Thanks.
So could you tell us maybe more about the cards? Are they used only for your workshop, or we could buy them somewhere, or what exactly is on each and every card?
I can give them to you to see. Yeah, I bring them to workshops, to classrooms, wherever it's needed. And I was thinking about making a digital version of it, but then I said no, because it's my rebellion against it. Like I said, there's a reason for it, so it's physical, and I really encourage people to spread it on the table and like just use your eyes to see that complex ecosystem. So this was part of my PhD that I was designing this as a methodology, and I am selling them, but it's not like mass produced. So it is possible to buy them, and I then have to update them all the time. I don't know for how long I will be still able to do that, but it's been already a few years. I would say 7, 8. So chances are big that I will continue because I'm stubborn. And what's nice about them is that so there's this color coding that these colors represent these modalities. And in this update that you're holding, I have the color shaped on the left side of the card are inputs, and on the right side are outputs. So you immediately see like what that model is able to accept as an input. So it takes text or an image. So the HoneyYuan 3D takes text and image, and the output it gives us its 3D. So that's also kind of like an upgrade that I made. So it helps thinking about how possibly those models could be connected.
I wonder if the so-called old animation softwares like Blender and Maya and stuff like that can be included into these workflows. Are there people that combine them?
Oh, I think they could, definitely, because you can decide that you're not gonna use AI for 3D because you want to do your own 3D yourself. And but I'm not such a big expert on Blender and all this other 3D software. I heard that there are some implementation of some models already in Blender, but I don't know exactly. But just to be clear that like what we can do, what we can achieve with AI and 3D is still, I mean, you cannot build a proper like architectural 3D model there, for example. It's usually just some mesh, like small objects, and but of course it's progressing and moving forward. But I think maybe what we will see is that we will skip the whole 3D, because for many use cases it's not necessary or not needed nowadays, because you can like fake it with AI. There's a question in the back.
So I'm quite wondering about this case with Paul Trillo. It makes an impression like it's kind of it's not a question, it's a quote to discuss. So it feels like this kind of training your own LoRa and training like something in your own style, it is a very capacity consuming thing. Like, and not every artist is capable of doing it and knows how and stuff. So maybe, some tools or non-popular models that are basically built to adjust to a style of specific artist or style of animation or whatever.
Yes, you're right that it takes time, and it makes sense only when you are making a bigger project, maybe to set it up. But there was this one tool, but I forgot the name. I would have to look for it for a few minutes. That was like specifically for artists, and it was promising that that they don't share your drawings outside, and you could train fine tune your model on your drawings. So I would have to look for that, and whether it's still out there, because it was like 2 years back. But nowadays, for example, Midjourney started experimenting with this style and mood boards features. So you can actually slowly, by like using it and having this feature on, you are training the algorithm, so it kind of knows your style. But it's in beta, and it's, I would say, not really there where I would want it to be. So those are the options that now I have on the top of my head. But actually, I mean, fine-tuning text-to-image model is not that difficult if you do it. Like there are some simple options also in Runway ML where they allow you to like train your model, but it's not training your model per se. You upload 10 photos and then you can generate from that kind of like constricted model. So maybe that's also an option how to do it without training using the LoRa.
Mm.
Thank you very much, Lenka. I think that's it. It was very informative. Thank you very much. And I'm closing. Thank you, Lenka.